What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Backliners podcast. It's Aggro and BaRRaCCuDDa as per usual. I can tell because Barry's doing little giggles and I'm not seeing it on the OBS. That means that the thing is doing... Oh, there we go. Yeah, I got ahead of it and we're good.
We're fixed. Nice.
Here we go. Yeah, okay. I did think as well. I said I'm going to stream myself doing the audio test and then... I turned on the stream at like exactly 8 p.m. So I didn't want to delay it any further with that. But maybe next week is going to be the week where I prove once and for all that I get scammed by my OBS.
And it's never your fault.
And it's never my fault. And, well, there is one thing that you could consider my fault. One time someone said, well, do you keep OBS updated? And I said, no. And that could be my fault then, huh?
I thought you were going to talk about the time, the 10th or 11th or maybe 15th or 20th time that you said it was going to be a short podcast. And then it lasted an hour and a half.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing.
I don't know if we're going to talk about that.
Great point, Barry. Here's the thing. My brain is not working. And this will be the fabled, the mythical, the one and only actually short podcast episode. I'm sorry, but you think of it this way, okay? You can either get the podcast you're getting, which is going to be short and all over the place and basically nothing of value anyways, or I could have canceled it. And if I had to, we were on the ruler, we weren't using a yardstick or like a meter, like anything like that. Like we were inches away from
millimeters
canceling this podcast episode. But I decided to push through. And here we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or you're not.
For the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, or their detriment. It's because I actually, there were a lot of interesting sets that happened this last week in the SPL. And I wanted to talk about them a little bit because there was some fun stuff going on. So let's start with... Oh, were you going to say something?
No, it's your short, fabled podcast. I'll let you take the reins.
No, Barry, please. It's your podcast too, man. It's not mine. It's ours. Like, what you got? What's on the mind,
I honestly forgot because my brain's kind of fried too.
Okay.
Wait. Oh, yeah, we didn't go over patch notes. Did you want to go over patch notes? Or do you want to jump in?
Nope, I do not.
Because I remember... Yeah, we talked about Your God for a little bit, and then because that episode was so long, anyways.
It really was. Yeah, someone has kept talking about their stupid career. You know what I mean? Coming to an end. Like who
I can't believe you would do that.
I know, me all the time.
Like you retired so long ago.
So long ago, and I did basically nothing of note, anyways, during my playing career.
Except for remember who costed you at all these different times during your career, and it was never you.
No, okay, I popped at every LAN I ever played at, okay, except for one, which is not even true. There were a couple individual games I may not have played as well at, and in particular, MLG Columbus Season 2, which was the SCL qualifiers. Hell was meta near the end of, or like middle of Season 2. I don't know if you remember that. And nope. I am an awful Hell player, which makes no sense because I feel like it's the exact type of style that I typically want to play, which is like trying to pay attention to my team as well as the enemy team. But I'm a terrible Hell player, and Hell was super meta, and I was popping off, and then teams started realizing they could leave Hell open against us, and so we were like, okay, we'll pick it against a bad team so that we at least, and we'll win no matter what, and it'll threaten... it'll put that idea in the minds of the other teams that they'll pick Hell and Aggro isn't complete dog at it. We lost that game against a bad team because I did literal nothing and was completely worthless. And we had to when you have to ban the best god in the meta as first pick side, it is such a disadvantage. It is such a disadvantage to your picks and bans. And I definitely did that to my team. For sure. Okay, how do you remember about my whack E-set ult up against Envy in the open bracket? I did have a particularly whack E-set ult. Yeah, okay, I double-clicked my button because my hands were cold and I was a little nervous, all right? But I popped the rest of that game except for when I got flattened by my allied's cuckoo ult on left mids in like 18 minutes because I didn't hear it. He one-shot 3 of us, and we never came back in that game. But we were ahead, and I did have that one misplay before that. Yeah, that's not fair.
How do you remember all these? I guess it was short.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I've got some good memory of some embarrassing moments for you too, Barry. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I remember a particular Arthur spinning on your head tops on your speed buff. You know, I remember,
that wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was in the other side of the map.
I remember a particular set that you guys should have won by disqualification, but because Cooper is too kind of soul, a team that didn't show up on time was down 2-0 to you. You had to win one
less
game.
Than 30 seconds away from finally winning a set, by the way. Less than 30 seconds.
Bro, okay, didn't you pile on top of who was E United's mid laner? Don't tell me, I'm gonna get it. I want to say it was Big Man, but that can't be right.
No, I remember
it wasn't Wilfie, even though they had Ice and Kalas.
Yeah, and Emil, right? Emilito. And Benji.
Yeah. Who was their mid laner? Okay, now I'm looking at chat because I don't remember. I feel like it was Big Man. Yeah, Minotaur is backing me up here. I feel like it was.
It was?
I think so. But you guys were winning a game, and then instead of, you guys like got a pick. I think it was game 2. Yeah, it was game 2. Well, so game 4, technically. You guys got a pick, and Big Man was playing Zeus. And you guys like chased them into their back harpies and like walked into a massive Zeus ult and chain lightning. You guys were up like big. That game was like over. And then you hard inted chasing kills instead of just doing the objective and lost the game instantly off of it. And
that doesn't sound like something we would do.
I was so tilted because I was like, this set is now like they've lost. Like they're losing game 5. There's literally no world in which they ever win game 5. You of course did not win game 5. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I remember that little moment.
Yeah, I remember. Was that the set that we... Wait, did we have Sino in that set or no? Or was that a different set? Because there were so many memorable games in Season 6.
Yeah, I remember talking to you guys being real sad outside of the, in break room area of that season. Like, a lot. I remember one in particular where like Andy was really tilted and just doing that thing where he's like, I don't know, like I should have just done this. No, that doesn't. That like, why didn't I just do this? Like, what am I doing? Like, you know, just like extremely Annister voice. Like he did that, and then I think you guys came back for another set like later that week, and you guys lost every set the exact same way that year. Where like. You guys just...
We were winning until we weren't, and then that was the steepest cliff any team would jump down.
It was literally, like, yeah, you would free fall directly from your lead to the bottom of the cliff.
Off of, like, one baby mistake.
It was like... crazy, bro. You guys, like... And you know what's interesting is that I didn't think that your team's, like, general mental was particularly weak, but... If I didn't know you guys, I would say you were like softer mentally than like my son's like butt, you know, like a baby's bottom. It was like, how could you think anything else after watching those games? It was just
imagine playing them.
That's what I'm not blaming you. Yeah,
on top of, I'd scrimmed that year more than any other year.
Really?
Like by far more. Every single week. Was it because
you were losing? That was your first year that you had like lost a lot of games.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were double scrimming every single day. So, like, basically, like, after Sunday or Saturday, whenever, like, I don't think we had really many, or if any days off. And it just felt so, you got in this, like, hopeless cycle of just kind of rinsing, repeating what you're doing, and then it started to get into your mental, about like the 10th fire giant we pulled with Sino when we lost. And then it was just like we would lose them to the most random things. Like
sometimes like, here's what I'll say. I would say, let's say you guys lost 20 fire giants that year, which is probably a conservative estimate.
Way more than that.
Way more than that, but just for ease of numbers, right? I would say you guys hard botched a way to like take that fight. Probably like 8 out of that 20. You know, like it was less than half, but still a significant amount of complete just like I don't really swear on this podcast that often. You guys were on that one. Apologies for the language. The rest, like the other 12, would be completely out of nowhere, like crazy.
And I remember watching it back. I was like, "How did this fire giant go bad?" Jeff and Vin were standing on top of fire giant pools, just roasting. Like Jeff lost 80% of his health as a Fafnir to a fire giant.
Yeah.
And then Vin, I think Jeff kept dragging it into Vin, and then we lost that fire giant to a Kama ult. It was 1v5.
Yep.
And Kama swooped through and got it. I'm like, only us.
Wasn't that also the year that before you picked up Sino, he got it with a Golden Blade proc on Arachne?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that wasn't against you, and it was when Sino was playing against a different team some other year. But I remember Sino stealing a fire giant with a Golden Blade proc, which is like, holy cow.
Yeah. And then we would have beaten Splice, and then Baskin stole it with a Yorm 3 that somehow snuck. He snuck in right before the firewalls went up, so we were full command to Fire Giant. There was no one there, and then he just Yorm 3s and takes it. And I'm like, how are we supposed to win? And then I remember the rest of the games in that set, we were up like 5k, and then every single time Simon was like, "Let's go to Fire Giant," and I'm like, "Not again." And then we lost every single one of those Fire Giants, or we like messed up the fight afterwards or before, like something.
I've said this a lot. I was a big like webcam watcher like during fights, and man, I distinctly remember you reaching a point where like at some point, like it was like the 5th or 6th game in a row you guys lost a fire giant, and I think maybe their ADC stole it or something like that, and your cam was on screen and you were literally just laughing, and I was like, oh no, like that's not we've hit that point. And no, go ahead. I've got another point, but go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the worst fire giant ever was I think when PCAT stole it from an oboe like downfield. His oboe bounced up like 3 times, then last hit fire giant. I'm like, no one was close, and we didn't get fire giant. Like no one on their team was anywhere close, and oboe somehow stole it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you guys were. It would be really funny if like Betty Smite, who does a lot of great like SPL history videos, like. Yeah. Just made a collection of all of the fire giants you guys lost that year. It would be absolutely awesome. That's a great video idea.
It would be fantastic.
I felt like I really watched, like, coming out of the booth, and you guys would always stand in the exact... Every team... I don't know if you've realized this, BaRRa, but every team stands in a different location in the break room after their games, and it's consistent. Like, teams will, like, stand over by this wall or over by this, like, couch or whatever. And they all, it's so funny to me that they always go to the same spot. You guys would always stand right on like the hallway that we walked down coming out of the soundstage. You would stand right on the edge of that wall before walking into the break room because you guys did not want to be there any longer. You wanted to like, but you would stand there and talk about how it happened to you again. And I felt, so I would like some teams I don't necessarily see every time I'm done with the cast, but you guys I always would, because you would stand there and you guys would typically stand there for a long time to talk. And I felt like I truly watched, week to week, the competitive fire behind Jeff Hindla's eyes slowly dim. Like, every fire giant took a physical toll from Jeff Hindla. By, like, where I could just tell. Like, that dude just... I love Jeff to death. He has this state where he is just, like, smoldering, like, underneath the surface. Like... And it can be really good where he's like really pumped and really amped to do something. And other times it's just like, I so deeply hate what is going on right now. And I just watched that like light behind his eyes like slowly dim throughout that phase. And it was time for young Jeff, whatever. You know, we got there for him for sure.
It was just really funny. Just looking back on it. I mean, I would never want to like ever have to relive anything close to that year.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, I think is really funny. And just seeing how much struggle and how much pain we went through that year, it's just comedy. Okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about the SPL because
Look, we're barely
I'm
gonna
the
talk
one
about
sidetracking.
it, as
Yeah,
per usual. Okay, I was gonna say
it's
that.
always me.
I was gonna say
Sorry.
that out of all the short episodes, surely I'm not responsible for all of them going long. You have to be responsible for at least some amount.
Yeah, I'll take like 5%.
Great, that's easy for me. Okay.
This one.
Yep, this one. This is the first time. Levi's Hounds. Levi's look good. Hounds look less good. Was this the game? I should really start.
I think this was
for these.
Neil's Athena games. I think for that game, for that set. Goodness, I streamed for a while.
Nope, he did not play Athena this set.
What? Maybe the set before. Sorry.
Well, this was the first set, so I doubt.
Wait, no, I meant like last weekend. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. What the Hounds were really far ahead in one of these games, weren't they? Or was that also last week? Was that first set with Neil's Athena? It might have been. I feel like I was watching one of these and they were like really far ahead, and then they just kind of like inted super hard.
Honestly, I don't remember these Friday games. I remember Sunday because I just watched those, obviously. But then I remember the Ravens sets, but outside of that, I don't remember. I just remember Levi's being better than every other team. Yep. In my opinion, I think Levi's like the best team right now.
Hard to argue that they aren't the team to beat because they then on Saturday went and 3-1 to the Oni Warriors. So we should be getting an announcement on the Warriors roster change any minute now because, the rule, like every time you lose a set, you change a player. That's been the rule so far this year.
It'd be weird if they didn't stick by it.
I mean, yeah, it would just be inconsistent is all. What this set was impressive to me on a couple of different facets. Number one, I feel like Shinto, if you would have showed me this series of picks for Shinto last year, where he goes Pele, Chernobog, Pele, Kamazats, I would have been like, well, that's probably not going to... That isn't a meta that necessarily favors this team. That's not his typical style. But man, he played these picks really, really well. Yeah,
I kind of feel like this team should just change ADCs more often. Because every time they do, their mid trio just turns on, and I don't know why. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Shinto. I think Picat's been playing really well lately, and then honestly, I think all of them, like across the board, have just been kind of looking like the kind of old Oni Warriors, the ones that didn't lose. They're just kind of shining mechanically brighter than the people they're playing against. And I would say I think FineOK just definitely deserves very high mentions for his performances lately.
Yeah, agreed, because I thought through the first half of the year, Sot was far and away the best solo laner. I really didn't feel like it was close, and Alec really popped in this set. Not to say that Sot had a bad set, necessarily. The Opwash solo we can talk about another time. But the overall, the Warriors have been able to rely on Sot outperforming his solo counterpart in the vast majority of sets this year, and I think this is one of few where you can't say that he clearly did. In fact, it was really the other way around, that Alec had more of an impact than Sot did, which, like I said, probably the first time all year that you can say that so definitively, at least off the top of my head. Also, how about Kennett, man? I mean, 10-1-9 in game 4, game 1, 8-2-7. In their loss, he goes 3-5-5, but then bounces back for 3-1-12. So in their wins, he dies a collective 4 times across 3 games and has a high amount of kill participation in all of them as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's just playing extremely well. I genuinely feel like all of them, just across the board, are having very good individual performances, but also they're looking very cohesive. But if I remember correctly, I think a lot of their objectives still look very messy top down.
I agree. They don't, I agree that they're playing well together, but they don't seem very coordinated is like maybe the word I'm looking for. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of phase 1 Oni Warriors-esque, where it's like kind of just like, let's just see what happens when we all toss buttons at one another, and we're just gonna hit more than you. That's obviously reductive, but at the end of the day, like, Leviathans are not playing the most clean Smite that Core has ever played, but it's still some of the best Smite they've played. And if they can get that cleanliness added in and be a little bit more concise and measured, then I think it'll serve them well. But I think that this is kind of a good thing for them, because they played that like tight to the vest, like don't make a whole lot of mistakes style for so long. And I don't necessarily think it's a coincidence that they look good when they just kind of like let it go, you know, like let's just free flow it, like get our confidence back, prove, you know, that we're winning games, and then they can button it up as the phase goes on.
Yeah, that's fair. I also don't know who does their main shot calls now, because I don't think Ronnie talked like too much. Maybe he does. But I don't know if Adapting's doing a lot or Shinto's doing a lot, or it's kind of like a mix of all three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we can have a Leviathan on the show soon to figure it out.
But I will say, Glads just look rough across the board.
Yeah.
In both of their sets this weekend against Ravens and then on Sunday. They just look like they have no win condition, no like X factor that's gonna like bring them over the line.
Yep.
Kind of just seems like they're scrimming when they show up. You know, it's like when you load into scrims and everyone's just kind of picking their own god.
Yes.
Obviously, you're like
they're
trying to make it cohesive.
They're doing the thing I hate the most, which is showing up and trying to out-smite your opponent. You're just going to play Smite game harder than them. It's like the thing that drives me the most crazy in the entire world when it comes to the Pro League.
I mean, teams like Warriors in Phase 1 can do that because they're just mechanically better and they will just out-skirmish you.
Yeah, but they're picking with that in mind, and they're playing the map with that in mind, you know? I'm not saying the Gladiators aren't game planning or thinking about how they want to play the map or anything like that, but it isn't translating to what's showing up on the screen. So in my mind, I agree that needs to be the focus. Real quick, before I forget to say it, Genetics in chat says support diff set. Nothing else to say for Leviathans and Warriors. So there you go, BaRRaCCuDDa MVP. Yeah, Gladiators. I was on Mike and Aurora's Travelers Proc podcast after this set, and so I was watching a little bit of it before I left, and then in studio, and the thing that I was thinking about. And I end up talking about it a little bit on that podcast because it was on my mind. I'm a very like, the way that I think about not just Smite, but games in general is not the way that everyone does. I think that people who have heard me talk for a while can probably see that. And it's not saying that my way is better. It's just that this is the way that I think about it. I think that if I were to ask any pro player on any team, close your eyes and picture yourself sitting down in the studio playing an SPL set. What god are you playing? Like, you should be picturing, if you're in the middle of an SPL set, what god are you playing? What gods are your teammates playing? Who are you playing against? What are they playing? Like, these are like when you're envisioning these scenarios, I think that just doing that tells you a lot about how you are currently thinking about the game and what you're thinking about your team. And then also it's like, okay, I mean, we can do it right now, BaRRa. When here's the situation, okay? You're in the booth, you're not retired. You're popping off. You're playing with the Ravens, most recent, your most recent team. You are winning the game. Things are going well. What does that mean? Like, when you picture how the Ravens won games, what type of comp were you playing? How were you winning the game?
You mean obviously not the most recent scrims before we started
Like
playing.
it, when the Ravens were winning their division in Phase 1, like were you playing a comp that was more centered around solo side? Are you playing a comp that's more centered around duo side, and you guys are winning through duo pressure, like that type of thing?
Basically, me and Hurry asking for help. We weren't getting help. They were always playing towards solo side.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get Haddix as large as possible, and then let's have Haddix rotate. So a lot of times in spring phase, I was sitting under my tower, watching as the enemy jungler came to prop buffs and to my purple.
Sure.
And then our solo laner would get so large that we would just kind of control the game from there.
Great. So when I hear that,
yeah.
my thought is, if I see the Ravens pick any solo laner that doesn't carry the game with a lead, why? What are we doing? And it's not to say that you have to be one-dimensional, but you have to have a plan A.
You need to have a game plan.
Exactly. You need to have a plan A. So if you're going into game 1 of a set where you had days or weeks to prepare for what your picks and bans are going to be, that's the way that you are most likely to end up to win a game. And you guys pick like Izanami and like
we were basically
Horus
picking
support, something that demands jungle presence and pressure to play off you. And then Haddix is playing like, I don't know, Sobek solo. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? That's clearly not what your team wants to be doing.
We were playing to have enough pressure in duo to not get run over, but not turning the pressure knob too far to where it demands the jungler, as you said.
Right.
But to where our 2v2 isn't so weak. Like, we're not going to go in and play like Jingwei Geb because we're playing weak side,
Right.
We just need enough pressure to not lose the game, and then basically see what we can do from there.
Exactly.
And then steal all the proc amps we can, steal all the purples we can, and then don't let them do golds while we just win the 2v2 solo side.
Yeah, I just think if I'm talking to any pro player, and this is not true as a caster necessarily, because these things are important information to a team that even if it seems obvious when you're watching them, you don't necessarily want to confirm anything. But like, if I were a team's coach and I'm coming in and saying, okay, let's say we win this set, who was most likely to be the most important factor in that win? Like, who was the driving force more than anyone else in that win? And obviously the answer is realistically dependent on game state, draft state, all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking in best case scenario, who is winning the game for your team? Every team should have one player who's the answer to that, in my opinion. Again, that is not necessarily true for everybody, but in my opinion, if I were making a team, I would want to know everything is going absolutely perfectly for us. Who looks the best? Who are we playing around to facilitate the most? And the answer just can't be, in my opinion, I don't know, it depends on the draft. I don't think that works, ultimately. I think teams need a little bit more direction than that. And right now, when I think about the Gladiators, when I think about them, popping off, they're playing their best, they're winning, who is the focal point? Who is the one who's making that happen? I don't really know based on their picks and the way they play the map, I don't know who they want to win the games for them. So
I will say,
I don't know.
I feel a little bad saying this, but I feel like Snoopy has not been carrying his weight lately. I think he's having a rather rough beginning of the phase so far. That as well, I hate Yuwong with a passion. I think that character
that god's good, man. I really
think
think
that god
he's good.
is just bad. I feel like if you're picking him in mid, you were just down a character for a while. I think he does do things in like mid game and late game sometimes, but I feel like he's like the bad Hachiman of mid laners, where like you're just not doing anything. Like you're there, you're doing damage, but like you're not threatening people.
Yeah.
And you're not making direction around your game. You're just, if I'm gonna 2-1 somebody, and a lot of times tanks are not taking damage from 2-1 right now. Like you need like a big ult to
not with
control.
this double flat pen build that a lot of people are going. That I really am not a huge fan of. I think there are just a lot of characters that really synergize well with things like Rod of Tahuti, and if you're going double flat pen, then you can't get 40% pen and Soul Reaver with Rod. Like, it just puts you in a bad spot. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the double flat pen build in general, but sometimes it is necessary with Divine. But I think in that case, you kind of just got to take your medicine and not build Deso. Yeah, I don't know. I think Yu Huang is really good because his damage is so easy. And he just pumps, like, his late game damage is really crazy. But I feel like we need to start thinking about him in the sense of you're not picking, unless your name's Benny Q. Like, no one picks Ra in a comp with minimal setup. No one picks Scylla in a comp with minimal setup.
Yeah.
You need setup in order to hit the ultimate consistently. And that is just the reality of it. But just the 1-2 combo on a squishy late game does like 60+% of their health. And it's really easy to hit over a wall. It's really hard to get punished for it sometimes. Not all the time, but I don't know. I understand like why mid laners don't think Yu Huang's good, but I also understand why some mid laners think he is good.
Yeah, I just think he feels good for you and not for your team.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
And I don't think he adds more to a team comp than any other mage does. Like, obviously a mage is going to do damage if they hit things late game.
Yep.
But outside of that, I just think he's bad. That being said, back to Ravens, with Scream on the Surtur pick, that pick scaled a lot better than I thought it would.
He slammed in that game. I did not expect it to do that much damage. Or, like, he was, like, tanky and survival. Like, he was popping off.
Yeah, the Archdruid's procs were definitely pumping damage, and I think they got way out drafted. Dragons did in game 3 and 4. And I think it was game 1 where they just like idly stood around a fire giant for a long time. I think that was this game.
Yep, I think so.
And then Haddock's going Runeforge. I like that a lot. Especially with the way they've been playing lately, where they're just kind of killing people in CC, which is that's just my favorite way to play Smite, is
Agreed.
Just CC a frontliner, poke him or kill them, and then you make your play after that.
Yep.
So like a lot of Haddock's picks are just kind of setting up for that, and then Scream on the Surtur also sets up for that. I feel like it just has a really easy stun to hit.
Yep.
And then Vin's picks, they were just drafting better, and I think it was game 4 where Dragons picked Ryze in the top 2, and then played like Ryze into Pele, and then played Amma into Hades, and I feel like if you're losing your mid and your solo, the only lane you can play through then is duo, and if you're losing both of those lanes so hard, like what are you supposed to do on the map? Like
not much.
You're losing totems, you're losing mids. They're gonna have a lot of rotation prio around the map, kind of permanently solo side, and it just didn't really make sense to me. Their drafting style, and it was just weird. Also, Vin's individual performance was extremely good. I think this was Vin's best weekend, maybe like all year.
Yeah.
Just his confidence level and the plays that he was going for, and the plays that he was also succeeding with, where it showed he was just very, not cocky, but just very confident in the flow state of the game and what his job was. And he wasn't doing the Vin things of like overstepping or trying to like force a play. He was letting the plays come to him, and he wasn't really like out of position either. So I was very, very, very impressed with them. And then also Zap's 50-50 Fire Giants, where they won every single 50-50. That was really impressive to watch. Wish I could do that.
Yeah, why didn't you simply do that?
Yeah, they just love doing the Olaron ulting Fire Giant play right now, and it's working.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about it. It's working.
Yep. Yeah, I think I don't know. It's how it goes. Like, might just be time for, if teams are just gonna start 50-50ing fires, guess I'm playing Vulcan Cuckoo Raw again, you know, like, and I'm just making them pay for not having a fleshed out end game comp, you know, is what we've seen teams do in the past. But it's certainly not a Ravens exclusive call right now. There have certainly been a lot of flipped fires, which I don't know. It's just the mid laner in me that thinks like, look, I know I don't want to be playing like Vulcan in the early game against these assassins in mid, but when I get to late and I'm up against a flipped fire, like, boy, does it seem valuable there, you know?
Yeah, you just gotta get there. You gotta get through the first 25 minutes first.
Yeah, maybe it's like Vulcan ADC that you can get away with. I don't know. Freya probably just like obliterates you.
And then Ferryman, I think, looked very good, very cohesive.
Yep.
Against Hounds. Ferryman are just playing their, I don't want to say like weird drafts. The weirdest part of the draft is just Sino. Basically every time. He's just kind of picking what he wants to. He's just kind of doing the same things.
Just built different, bro. He really is. Like, he just is in a different universe of thought in comparison to the rest of us mere mortals. He's just
doing picks that allow him to control the jungle early, and then facilitating his picks to get to like mid to late game. And it's really cool to watch because Scream's kind of doing the same thing with Asserter. But both of them are unironically not bad the late game. You kind of think that Warriors would like fall off late game, but they don't seem to be doing that bad. Especially with the initiations that both of them are finding.
This Pelona jungle build he goes game 3 is maybe the least aesthetically pleasing build I've ever seen that makes a lot of sense. It's Protector of the Jungle, Golden Blade, Stone of Binding, Chin Size, Dawnbringer, Pridwin.
Yep.
He probably freaking slammed people with this build. And it is hideous to look at.
And then on the flip side of this, for Hounds in this set, Neil was just having the Ares performance you never want.
Yeah.
Both times. I assume that everyone here has watched SPL a lot. You know what happens to Ares when they get behind, where you just can't walk in the jungle anywhere, and everywhere you go, there just happens to be 4 people. Or every single time you take a team fight, you're the one that's dying, and you never have that like dream Ares team fight of, oh, I'm 2ing and I'm keeping all my carries alive and I'm hitting these really crucial chains. You're just like, well, I'm dead again, and I get to press 2, but it doesn't feel like it's doing too much. And on top of that, Ferryman picking like Guan and Sobek into the Ares, I think is really smart because it just kind of stops him controlling the map early game.
Yep.
And then I obviously haven't scrammed in like a week and a half, or I think a little longer at this point, but I was a little confused as to how Chernobog was getting through so much.
Yeah,
I thought that pick was still like top tier, but maybe it's like the top tier dealable with now, or is the other things we're banning we don't want to deal with, but Chernobog's like, okay, I guess we'll let that through, and I guess we'll deal with it. We just like can't take too many awkward fights in the early mid game that he can ult over to, but
so I think globals typically you have to remember how to play against them.
Same with Athena. Like, Athena's getting a lot more value than I think she should.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I also wanted to call out Paul's Morgan Le Fay pick. I think this god is criminally underrated. And I think she's good into the assassins in mid because she has pretty solid self-peel. And she just pumps damage, man. Like, that god is good. I want to see more people playing her.
I think she's really good as like a counter pick. I don't think you're ever picking her like early in a draft, but if she's counter picked, if she's counter picking something else, I think she's like a top mage in the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I feel like if there's a draft where you're gonna pick Yuang in it, you should just pick Morgan Le Fay. I feel like she's just a better Yuang. Unless you're getting like the best ult in the game Yuang performance, you know. I think that god's just bad. And then I think Morgan just does a lot more.
Yeah, I think Morgan's really good. Okay, last thing before we go on to the random question of the week. Just thinking about the Hounds certainly have not looked great since the roster changes and all that kind of stuff. Neil definitely has not looked like he's back completely in form yet, but I also don't think that it's fair to put all of the struggles of the Hounds on him. I feel
Ducky's playing bad.
Yeah, Ducky is definitely not playing as well as he did in phase 1. And I feel like that is the thing, is that their frontline synergy just isn't really there. And I feel like what I'm noticing is that the way Neil is picking and playing the map, when he was last playing in the SPL, he had Fred. And Fred was a get in there jungler. Like, that dude was first into a lot of fights. He was never going to play the outskirts as hard as someone like Oath, who is very, we've talked about the jungle scale of aggressiveness in fights versus passiveness and picking your moment, where Kenneth is like the pole of, I'm going to wait until it looks really good for me and I will not go until it is that moment. And then you've got your Captain Twigs and your Cubo Freds, who are just, if I see anything, if I die, I don't care, I'm getting in there. I think Neil is still playing and picking a little bit more similarly to that style that he had with Fred, where his jungler was going to be there instantly at all times. I feel like if I'm the Hounds coach, I want Neil to pick things that have more individual survivability and can bait a little bit longer than things like Ares. Like, Ares is so one-dimensional. Yeah, it's like, if your team isn't exactly where they need to be to back you up, you are cooked. Mm-hmm. The synergy and timing just isn't there yet between Neil and Ducky and Oath. And in general, Oath is a player who's going to play the outskirts of the fight a lot more heavily than most junglers in the league. So putting Neil on things with more survivability, like, say, Yamoja or
Athena as well. I think the Athena games were really good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, those types of picks, like Terra, like, those types of things I think will serve him better than this Ares pick, which they've gone to a lot so far this year. And Neil has historically in his career been a very good Ares player. I just don't think it's working with the way that this team is constructed. Like, he just has to survive long enough to give Oath that opportunity that he's really good at capitalizing on.
Mm-hmm. I think he also has a really solid Ymir, which can just kind of be that position-based god, but also I can live in a lot of situations if I play it really well.
Yep.
But also, I think I would like to see them play a little longer before they get off the super position-based gods, because it might just be like a cohesion thing, and they can probably or like work their way into it. Obviously, me and you are both in agreement of it doesn't look pretty now. Definitely does not look pretty. But it might be something they can work towards and get better at. But I do definitely agree with you in the short term. It's definitely better for Neil individually to be on safer picks.
Yeah. Crazy how much the league landscape has changed with these roster changes, because, after the Phase 1 playoffs, it looked like there were a lot of teams that were capable of competing for a world championship. I don't know about you, but it does not feel that way right now to me.
I think everyone's just worse now that I left.
Yeah, see, they just like they're in protest. Like, obviously the Leviathans are capable of dominating a world championship. The Warriors are clearly capable. The Ferrymen, I think, are capable. The Kings, I'm like halfway there on, but not.
Oh quite. Yeah. We didn't touch on Kings, but Twig looked so good.
The
for this weekend,
the Captain Thor should maybe stay pocket pick though. I did not. He had a couple good fights, but in general, like,
look, that's just Thor. Sometimes he giveth and sometimes he taketh.
Yeah, that is true.
Sometimes you see that dunk and then you press 4 and right when you click, you're like, no, and then you're just flying in. You're like, well,
yep.
I guess this is happening.
That's how it be. Honestly, there's a reason that Twig has never been known as a Thor player.
Twig Thor taketh a lot though.
Yeah, but look, what is he just supposed to play the same gods he's always played? Like,
exactly,
he can't add something else. Like, credit where it's due. He had a couple good fights. Maybe it needs to keep on coming out.
Yeah, just keep warming it up.
Exactly.
It takes a while.
But in general, I think the Kings certainly looked a lot better. They only played the one set, and it was against the Gladiators, so it's hard to put a bunch of stock in that. But I think the Kings are closer to that upper echelon of the three teams that I mentioned of Leviathans, Warriors, and Ferrymen that are in no particular order than any other team in the league. I think it is those three teams in the top tier, the Kings in the tier just below them alone, and then it's the Ravens and Dragons in a tier with just the two of them, then a tier with the Hounds, and then a tier with the Gladiators.
Yeah, I would just separate Ravens and Dragons, but outside of that, I completely agree. There just seems to be a big difference in the top three, and then you're just laddering after that. Like, all three teams are in, like, their own rung, and then every single team after that is just... And then maybe Glads are, like, a few rungs below Hounds.
We didn't have to put rungs in between, you know?
I love Glads, but, like, the games that I watched this weekend were really deflating for me, and they just need...
How do you think it was for them? Oh, that must have been really hard for you.
Look, I've been through Season 6 SSG. Like, 1 weekend for them is nothing, you know?
It's only been nothing. 1 weekend. They've won a lot this year besides that.
Look, they have, okay, it is funny how whoever's the bottom seed, like, Bronick went through it, and I'm sure, like, Kiermy's going through it now, where, like, every weekend you feel like, you know, someone new showing up on your roster. I mean, I think they're limited roster changes this year, but he's got 2 new frontliners, and then he's still trying to make it work. Yeah, I'm just digging myself a hole. It's fine.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right, we got 12 minutes to keep it under an hour, so here we go. We're going to our random question of the week. Patreon Discord, patreon.com/backliners if you want to join up there. I did post my playlist. No one has gotten past, like, the first band, it seems, which is not a dig at them by any means, but everyone's listening to it in order, which I think for albums is very critical. For playlists, it should be randomized, is the way that I feel about it. Anyways.
Agreed.
All right, Messi asks, what is your favorite bit from the podcast? Theirs is a tie between What Is Going On and Destiny's 10 out of 10 chocolate chip cookies. That Destiny's 10 out of 10 chocolate chip cookies is definitely one of my favorite bits. That's a great one.
This is a rough question for me.
Yeah, why is that, Barry?
I really have no idea why it's so rough for me. I would say, I agree with you, Messi, but also I think Mifflin's rant.
That was a great moment for sure.
EU SEC or EU SOC or something.
Yep.
His rant was really good. And then also Meerkat being on, like, our first episode ever and just talking about, like, that Thanksgiving movie. It was like Thanksgivings or something.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, yeah.
He just got completely unhinged on, like, our first or second episode.
I miss Meerkat, man. I haven't talked to that guy in too long. We've both been busy. I'm going to call him up soon because I love that little guy. That's
and then
so funny.
A bit of a sad one was Finch because he was on the podcast, and me and Finch never really, like, talked too much. We would always be, like, obviously, like, friendly, but it was never, like, out of my way talking to him, or he would never go out of his way to talk to me.
Sure.
After that podcast, I was like, I should really go talk to him more. Like, just the way he talks, the way he communicated, like, it was so
unique, man. No one else I've ever talked to talked like he did. I still think of, like, his speech patterns in my head all the time. Like, all the time.
Yeah. And I was like, I should really make an effort to, like, talk with him and hang out with him, because I don't know, sometimes there's people in your life that you talk with, but you never, like, your paths never, like, completely cross, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, I should really, you know, reach out and, like, talk with him a bit. That'd be my sad one, and then the Destiny's chocolate chip cookies is that was
so funny. I still love that.
That one's a rough one.
Yeah, I think I love whenever someone asks a really weird question. Not weird, but like a question like, where's the best?
Aggro.
Yeah, what's up?
Destiny's here.
Oh, hey, Destiny. How? I'm sure
you want to talk to...
Yeah.
I'll let you talk to Aggro real quick.
Yeah. Give her the headset. That's good.
Are we?
Oh yeah, we're live.
We're on the podcast.
What's up, Destiny? How are you?
Hey, good. Just, I was minding my business and heard John talking.
Yeah, he was saying that the time you made chocolate chip cookies and they were so good that they were a 10 out of 10, you know? Do you remember that?
I do remember the cookie situation, Aggro. Thank you so much for reminding me. Yeah.
Yeah, could you just, for any podcast listeners who may not have been there for the initial sequence, could you like give them a rundown from your perspective of the cookie incident?
Yeah, I would love to. So I spent so much time in the kitchen. Okay, I love cooking, but I'm not a baker. Where are you going?
I'm going to get water.
Anyway.
Welcome to the Backliners Podcast, Aggro and Destiny, as per usual.
As per usual. And so I was like, oh, I'll be nice and I'll make cookies from scratch. And apparently they were just crap. So I threw my whole blender away.
No, the what makes it worse, in my opinion, not to dig BaRRA a deeper hole here, but it wasn't that they were crap. It's that he was like, yeah, they're pretty good. They're like a 7 out of 10 or something like that. And you were like, they're so good. They're like the best cookies I've ever made. They're 10 out of 10.
Yes.
And BaRRa's like, no, dude, they're 7 out of 10.
No, listen, because I have been trying to tell John like the difference in what pretty good means. So now whenever he enjoys something, I intentionally go, yeah, it's pretty good. He goes, what do you mean it's pretty good? But when he does it to me, he's like, what? Pretty good's good.
Yeah, that's what he kept saying. He goes, what? 7 out of 10's a compliment. That's good.
So he listened to a new Sub 41 song yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. What do you mean this is the best song ever?
Yeah, listen, I tried to tell him, look, man, just say they're the 10 out of 10.
Just
she
lie
worked
to me.
hard.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Just say it. Like, it doesn't cost you anything. Like, it costs nothing. He's still learning, though. Our John, he's still learning, huh?
He is. But I will say that he doesn't really rate things with a number anymore unless I ask. And if I ask him to rate it, he pauses. Like...
Yeah, he goes, well, 10 out of 10, of course. And then now the number is meaningless.
Yeah, it's all ruined. The whole
God.
system's ruined.
Well, at least he won't be around a whole lot now that he's retired. Oh, wait, he'll be around all the time. Unlucky for you.
Yeah. Unlucky for me. That's okay, I'm not baking anything, so, you know.
Oh, right.
Had to hang that up.
Unlucky for him, then, I suppose.
Unlucky for him.
Destiny, do you have a favorite bit on the podcast? Like, when I would make fun of him saying that your cookies weren't 10 out of 10. One of my favorites is when I have a really long and in-depth answer about like what type of sandwich I like and the bread and the toppings and all this kind of stuff, and BaRRA just goes, I don't know, like a pub sub, you know, like, you know, he just has like the most surface level take of all time. Do you have any favorites like that?
Honestly, it's nothing specific, but it's when it turns into an argument is when it's my favorite, because you'll be like, yeah, and I like the cheese to be cut into 4 pieces and placed, you know, with the corners facing this way. And then John's like, I like to put some peanut butter on my bread sometimes.
Yeah, and I go, is it crunchy or smooth? And he's like, either one.
Yes, everything is a debate. I also really like the, honestly, when Joe and I did the podcast,
that was
the
a great
Q&A,
episode.
It was, especially when you were trying to segue into an ad and you baited me, and I had to be like, what is $5? And then you just come out of the you spawned. Like, you just randomly spawned.
Man, wasn't it great when I had time and energy to think about doing fun ad reads? That was a great time for me.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days indeed. All right, well, thanks, Destiny. I appreciate your little cameo. You can finish off. We're just in the random question section, so you can do it if you want instead of giving it back to BaRRA. I'm fine with either one.
I'll give it back to John since he was in the hot seat, and I've got to. I'm gonna go meet Lynn. And kind of go over the pets because we're going on vacation tomorrow. But I know, I'm so excited. So
we'll have a great time.
Thank you. I'll give it back over to Mr. Pretty Good.
There he is.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Can you tell? Wait, I'm gonna wait until.
Pretty good bit by you.
I was gonna say, can you tell Destiny that was a 10 out of 10 cameo?
That was a 10 out of 10 cameo from Aggro. From Aggro, it was a 10 out of 10. For me, a 7.
What is wrong with you, man? Okay. Yeah, Dream Martini says one of their favorite bits is me with the sound checks. That's not a bit. I am trying as hard as I possibly can. And Odd Otters says his favorite bit is 10-minute rants about the most minute of details while Bear is laughing because he couldn't care less. That's very much mine as well. All right, Messi also asks, what's your favorite sound? For them, it's the sound of rain. Also podcast throwback, but brown noise also goes hard. Brown noise does go hard. I love brown noise.
Brown noise is really good. Favorite sound would probably be something food related. Probably like coffee brewing is always good. I would say bacon frying, but I feel like that would be very anti-vegan.
It's the smell of the bacon, not the sound.
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
I think anything frying is a very attractive noise.
That's true.
Because you just know it's gonna taste good. Like 9 times out of 10, anything fried is gonna be delicious. Honestly, I think it would just be something food related, sound wise. I'm trying to think of like a very specific thing outside of like frying and bacon.
Those are 2 good answers. I am going to embarrass you here though, because I have 2 very good answers and very cute, sappy answers. They're the same things. My dog, when she's really comfy and like snuggling with you, she like grunts as she breathes. That is like kind of the dog's version of purring, and I love that sound. It makes me very happy. And Calvin, my son, he had his first intentional laugh today, and that was like, the best sound ever. I'll post the video in the Patreon Discord, so in the pets channel, because I think that's very funny. Yeah, we got it on video. How clean is that?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Wait.
It is.
Okay. Really
big time. Go ahead.
Really dumb question. When did they start walking?
We are a long time away from.
Oh, really? You have to take care of him for that long before he starts walking?
Did I tell you what Andy told me to do with him? Anninster said it was the first time I talked to him since he had been born, and he goes, "Hey, girl, so have you like put a mouse in his hand yet?" And I was like, "No, he can't really like do anything." And he goes, "Okay, yeah, but think about it this way. Like, if you just put him on an aim trainer for like 10 minutes every day, eventually he would figure it out and he would start being insane." And I was like, "Andy, I don't think I'm going to put him on an aim trainer anytime soon, my guy." But now
Andy is like,
that's just the way
he's just thinking in like a business mindset of like, well, how can I make money off of my kid? I know.
So good.
I'll make him into a pro gamer.
Bro, he's like, just put him on the aim trainer. It doesn't matter if he doesn't do anything for months, but eventually he'll start clicking heads. So anyways, right after the podcast, I've got to go off the computer so he can aim train, because that's his time. All right, Hiru says, what current day technological advancement or service do you wish you had during your teenage or youth years, i.e. smartphones in the 90s, PS5 or Xbox during the Game Gear Sega era, Spotify during like iPod Music, etc.
I would have to take Spotify.
Yep, Spotify busted.
I think smartphones, this is going to sound very boomer. I think smartphones ruin our brains. So
they do, but I'm addicted,
like,
so I want it.
The same. I feel like delaying all technology when I was a kid, the longer the better.
Yeah.
As far as like getting me permanently internetized, you know, or like you're just always connected. Like the internet that we had was like addicting games or like break.com, you know. Yep.
Dude,
and
isn't it crazy that we are like the last generation of people who remember what it was like before the internet was like truly omnipresent?
Right.
Like I remember when like I remember Google becoming a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I resisted Google for a long time. I stuck with Ask Jeeves well beyond when everyone else had switched to Google, until this is a true story that's very funny. I was in a computer lab in school, and I went to search for something, and I, of course, went to Ask Jeeves. And someone saw that I was on Ask Jeeves and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Yo, this guy's still asking Jeeves." And I never went to Ask Jeeves ever again. Never again. I got publicly shamed. And that's an example where bullying might have been good for me, you know? Like,
yeah, I don't blame them at all.
No, they were right.
I just went to askjeeves.com and typed in Reddit, and I have to scroll down. I don't even have Reddit. Like, Reddit isn't even an option that I get when I type in Reddit. Like, I don't know what we're searching for, but it's not Reddit when I type in Reddit. And
Yeah.
I was the same way, I think, with like MSN.
Yeah.
I used MSN for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I remember my swap to like Chrome,
Mhm.
and I was like, this is so much better than anything I've used in the past.
I know. Yeah, I think for me, Reddit is a good one. I think I would have liked having Reddit when I was younger, just to like find some communities for games and sports and talk about all that.
Yeah, because talking to people on the internet was so cool back then.
Yeah, because it was mostly just people you knew and not complete random strangers. At least for me. And I
Mine was
like
a mix
that.
of both.
Spotify's good, but you couldn't use it to burn CDs, which was my whole thing, of course. So I don't know if it would have worked super well. I had never watched Good Mythical Morning until this week, if you can believe that. I literally never watched it. And it kind of made me mad because how come my friends and I didn't just sit down in front of a camera and just eat some food blindfolded and give it ratings early enough on YouTube that we could have caught on and had millions of views on every episode? Like, I could have done that, you know? Like, my friends and I were doing exactly that. We just didn't film it and put it on YouTube. Why not? If we just would have tripped our way, because that's how so many like internet people, I don't know if that's what they did, you know, they do good work, all that kind of stuff. I'm mostly memeing, but I'm also not really memeing that much. Like, if we would have just happened someday in 2002 to have filmed it and it just got lucky on the algorithm and a lot of people saw it, I wouldn't be doing this stinking podcast. I'd be on a yacht. You know what I mean?
So you're saying you'd rather never have met me, is what you're saying?
No, BaRRa. I would have rather met you when I had significantly more money. That's what I'm saying. I would have preferred to have much more money than I currently have.
I could have been your yacht boy.
You could have been on my yacht. Exactly. Like, you're getting it. That would have been a much better scenario for all of us involved. It would have been great. Okay, last but not least, it's Dreamy Martini. What is the best animal to have as a pet / what is the best pet you've ever had? It's obviously a dog, okay?
It's a dog.
Cats are great. Yeah. I can't have cats because I'm very allergic, and so is my wife. But I do love cats. They are goofy little guys, and I love that about them. That being said, a dog is just like, it is just that. Like, it's just him. You know what I mean?
It's just
like,
better.
Dogs just like, I don't know. When I think about the cats and dogs debate, I always think of Finch because he, as per usual, had an awful take about how cats were actually better than dogs because dogs gave you, this is so prototypical Finch off camera. Dogs give you unconditional love, but cats make you work for it. And I was like, Finch, what does it say about your own view of your self-worth that you don't think you're deserving of unconditional love automatically? Like, you don't need to earn it, you know? Like, you're allowed to be unconditionally loved by this creature. And that never convinced me, of course. But yeah, like, they're great dogs. There are less good dogs. But if we're talking peak experience of the best cat you could ever have or the best dog you could ever have, I'm taking dog 365, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with dog to a lesser extent. I would say like dog 80-20. Because there are some days where Hero will just like get in my lap, and I don't know why. None of my cats drooled until Luna learned how to drool, and now all of them drool. They just get really happy and then start purring and then start drooling all over me. But I mean, today Hero was in my lap for like an hour. He was purring nonstop, and I was petting, and he was drooling, and he was making biscuits on my arm, and it was adorable.
I love that.
But I think overall, you just get more energy from a dog. You get more love from a dog. Like, every time you come through the door, Hammy is like airplane eared, like sprinting his way towards you. He's like howling and growling and barking because he's so excited. He doesn't know what noise to make. You know, he's just making whatever noise he can. And then in the mornings, he's so tired, but he's still really excited to see you that he just wags his tail and then just rolls over and just wants belly rubs.
Oh, it's the best.
And cats, you still get that love, but it's just a different love. And I think, like, every single time I see Hammy, I know he's going to be excited to see me. I know he's going to be really happy. I know he'll want to play. Cats are just kind of like, you're living in the same area. Cats are more like roommates than pets. I think. We're like, you're just hanging out sometimes, and then sometimes you're not. And then dogs are like, what are you doing? I want to be with you. I want to hang out with you. Like, oh, I can't wait to do whatever we're doing today. And today, or the last 2 days, I've been streaming a lot, so I haven't had time with Hammy, but he just lays on the floor and just hangs out. And then if he's sad that I'm not paying attention, he'll go, oh, oh. Or he'll just growl at me when I walk by, which isn't like really growly.
No, it's just talking.
He doesn't know what growling means, I think, because he grew up around cats. But he just growls for attention.
Yep.
If we're not giving him attention, he'll just go like he'll just. And it's just cute, yeah, because he wants some loving. He wants you to play with him, or he wants pets. He wants something.
Yeah, exactly. No, dogs can be robots who just like don't know what's going on. I'm telling you, my dog Mackenzie, the GOAT dog of all time, no doubt in my mind, she is the literal best dog I've ever had by a mile. She is the goofiest little creature I've ever known. She has so many little like weird idiosyncrasies and like tendencies that I've never seen any other dog have, and I like love it so much. She's just the best. So yeah, if you think dogs are just brainless little dummies, sometimes they are, and that makes them great. But sometimes they're also little weirdos.
My neighbor's dog growing up was definitely one of the brainless little
Oh
dogs.
my god, dude. My best friend's family growing up, they had a dog named Sophie, and this thing was dumber than any living. I could not believe that she was able to like
natural selection, right?
Like, my god, dude. She literally, they had another dog named Mackie who was the smartest dog I've ever known. She was super well trained, like literally understood all of the human language as far as I could tell. Sophie, trained by the exact same people, never learned her name. How is that even possible? And they had this thing where like their dining room table was like right next to the kitchen, and then there was like their living room had a step down, like a little sunken living room. And while we were eating, Sophie there was hardwood near the kitchen and the dining room table, and then it was carpet on the step down. And so you would hear the like, she'd like be scratching and like running, and then she would run and leap off of the hardwood, and then there was a couch like right where she would land, and she would want to land and slide right underneath the couch. She was like a little tiny dog. She would always try and land and slide, but like 1 out of 5 times she would run up, leap, and then forget to duck and just like slam right into this headbutt the side of this couch. And every time she would do the exact same thing, which was she'd, launch, and then we'd all turn and look at her, and she'd be standing there like just perfectly still staring at the couch, like not realizing. She's like, how did that get there? And then
what happened?
And then she would give us this look. Hold on, I gotta make sure I can see my OBS so that I can make sure I'm giving the right look to the camera that was Sophie-esque. Yeah, she would stand there and like be stunned, like what? And then she would go, just nothing behind the eyes, just like this, like turn and like, what was that just happened? That was really good podcast content from me. But yeah, that dog was absolutely dumb as bricks. And I loved making fun of her, but I also loved being around to make fun of her. So she was great.
Yeah, dumb dogs are fun, but I will always enjoy a smart dog more. You just feel more of a connection and more of a... They seem more alive and in the moment than like a dumb dog.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Okay, nice short episode, BaRRa. You absolute
Thank
idiot.
you.
You made us go so long this episode.
I know, it was my fault this time. Actually.
Feels good, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah,
to
it feels
goof
great.
It up a little bit.
I wasted so much of your time.
Just making sure that we're it's like trolling a ranked game a little bit, you know? It's like
exactly.
you just feel like you got something done today. All right, we'll be back next week. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I knew right in the beginning when I threw whatever we were talking about, like
Not
season
even
6,
4 seconds
and then
in.
your old career. Yeah, I was just throwing wrenches at you.
Yeah,
from
sometimes
the
you
get-go.
know, and I look.
Yeah.
If I didn't want to be swimming in the pool with you, I would have gotten out. But that's it.
That's fair.
I don't know where that analogy came from, but it kind of worked better than I thought it would. Okay, podcast next week is TBD. It definitely will not be on Tuesday because that is my wife and I's 3rd wedding anniversary, so I will not be podcasting. But we might do one later in the week. We'll have to figure it out, you know, check our Twitters, all that kind of stuff for info there. We are in the works on doing another interactive AMA. And I did get confirmation that Patreon subscribers can get tickets for free. So if you want to get involved with that and support us simultaneously in the best way possible, patreon.com/backliners is the place to go in order to do that. And you'll get to see a very cute video of my baby laughing. So check it out there. All right. Until then, BaRRa, you know what to do.
Bye.
A little soft. You were a little scared of that one, weren't you?
My throat's a little sore, so I didn't want to go a little high because, you know, I feel like I'd be a teenager and just voice crack. So
it was pretty
good.
A
little
you know, I'll say it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was like a 7 out of 10, I think.
That's probably generous.